Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Well, hello, happy Wednesday to you. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Happy Tweet Chat Wednesday, in fact. How's your day going? I'd love to see where you're joining us from. If you're joining us, let us know where it is, what part of the country you're joining us from right now, because I've read that there's snow. Snow is actually trending on Twitter. And I got to admit, I'm actually a bit jealous because we're still dealing with the Bond wildfire here in Southern California. So we could surely use your snow to combat our fire. So if you're joining us, also on the replay, hello. Thank you so much for tuning in. And please do me a favor, include the comment and the word replay, so I'll make sure to catch your view. I certainly don't want to miss you. And if you're joining us live, hello, and welcome to the show. Let's start with the market because we have three special, extraordinary guests today that I definitely want to introduce you to. The Dow closed, unfortunately, down 105. NASDAQ also down 243 points, S&P down 29. And you might be wondering, well, that seems very different from what we've been talking about the last few weeks, and that's certainly the case. And you might be wondering also, why did the market drop so significantly? Namely, did you see the NASDAQ? NASDAQ down 243 points is very much a deep drop. On stimulus watch, that's really what we're all talking about today. And if you want anyone to blame in terms of the market reaction to your company 401k, maybe even your company stock, well, let's just say some men and women just can't play well. It seems like what we were looking hopeful to just a week ago with a bipartisan effort of a $900 billion plan to end this sad demise, if you will, of not having another round of stimulus, doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. Because today CNBC reported that Senate Majority Mitch McConnell criticized House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, well, that's a mouthful, for rejecting the latest Trump administration offer, which did not include extra unemployment benefits. I think that's pretty important. As of today, it's still unclear what sort of stimulus relief package could get passed. In fact, it's a lot of what he said, she said, and both parties not wanting to budge on their non-negotiables. They just can't get along. The Republicans are seeking a stimulus relief proposal that includes more pandemic lawsuit protection, granting business and universities immunities from coronavirus-related lawsuits. The Democrats rejected the $916 billion stimulus relief proposal by the Trump administration because it included a one-time $600 direct payment that didn't include a federal unemployment insurance supplement, as you know, the enhanced benefit. The bipartisan package last week includes a $300 weekly boost to jobless benefits. And I know if you were unemployed or if you are unemployed, you can certainly agree that would probably be quite helpful. So we've got just a little bit over a week, about a week and a half left to see if both parties can come together on a deal. As of now, as of today, we are still no closer. So the United States has seen over 1 million new cases in just 4 days, bringing the national total to just over 15 million Americans who have, succumbed to this terrible virus. So let's move on to some better news, because those of you joining me know that Wednesdays are really special, because Wednesdays are when we have our tweet chat, which, as you know, is the largest business tweet chat on social media. It's a Winnie Sun tweet chat. We average 150 million impressions per week. Today's topic is titled Digital Leadership in a Digital World, featuring really some of the most incredible leaders in the digital space, including Rachel Miller, who joins us. She heads influencer marketing at SAP. The one and only Mark Boothe, Director of Customer and Social at Instructure, former head of social, it was a really small company called Adobe, Experience Cloud, and the one and only Matt Owen, who I want to tell you, he's just hilarious. He's also an Adobe Insider's 8-time Inc. 5000 winner. Matt, only 8 times? I feel like slacking there. 3-time entrepreneur, CTO. Just this is like if you were putting together a dream team for your company in terms of all things digital marketing, influencer marketing. These 3 individuals, let me just say, probably wouldn't even fit on your payroll because they are so dynamic. However, somehow we were able to convince them to come on the show. So you're in for a total treat today. let's start with this. Here's a stat that came up, which is 42% of companies surveyed cited leadership development as very, very important. And so I'd love to start with you, Rachel, if you don't mind. Talk to me about digital leadership. What does this mean to you when you think about this term?
I think it's really refreshing to see that digital leadership is becoming such a hot. Is there an echo?
There is a slight echo, but I guess we're embracing it today.
That it's becoming so popular. I think with the rise of human experience management, employee experience, you really need to know who's leading your organization, and that happens at many levels. So I think the focus is imperative, and it can't just be a top-down. It needs to be a bottom-up initiative, and especially now in our completely virtual, work experience.
That's so true. I think our work experience has changed so much. I want to actually tackle question 3. And that's one of the questions that we shared on Tweet Chat today. And I wanted to share that real quick for those of you who weren't able to join us on this discussion, which is, how does one become a digital leader? How do you develop digital leadership skills? Do you think leaders are born, or are leadership traits learned? And I feel like this is right up your alley, Mark. We've talked about this before. You've actually led marketing at some of the largest companies here in the United States. And so many people, myself included, have had the privilege of learning and work and partnering with you. And so that's been really exciting. Tell me, when you think about that, this is something I'm really fascinated to hear about. Do you think that digital leadership, obviously very important, are leaders born, or are leadership traits learned? You have kids. What are your thoughts, Mark?
I think it's a combination of both, is the honest truth. I do think that skills, traits, characteristics can be learned. However, I do think that there are certain personalities that people really jive with. People seem to really be a part of groups that these people lead. So yes, you can learn the skills, but some of those personality traits I think people are born with. Can you learn them? Absolutely. But those who are born with them seem to do exceptionally well.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that. I always think it is something that you can certainly learn, right? Or maybe it's always been inside of you. But I think as you go through your life, as you go through elementary school and high school and beyond, maybe those traits, you finally feel comfortable in your own skin and you can share them out. Matt, talk about this a little bit. Obviously, right now we're in very different times. How important is digital leadership in some of the companies and brands that you work with?
Well, I tend to work with technology startups, as I said on the chat, and so digital leadership is really synonymous with leadership, right? We don't really differentiate, because my clients, the companies that I've started in the past, they are all technology. So you kind of assume it's going to be digital leadership. So, of course, in times like this, and I hate using those terms, I try not to, but leadership is extremely important, because your employees and your partners, they need some comfort that it's all going to be okay. And so, I do have certain, I would say, God-given talents, natural leadership personality, and just over time, polish that and have some confidence in yourself. And if you're confident that everything's going to be okay, hey, we're going to figure it out. Yes, these are challenging times, but hey, I love a good challenge. This is my time to shine. Everybody around you is comforted by that, and then they sort of calm down, and then they just get back to being productive. So to me, the various leadership traits, the patience, the calm, the integrity, and knowledge and experience, and all the things that we talked about in the chat there, extremely important right now. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, that's how I've always lived my life, and always have run the companies that I've been a part of. Right. So it never really changed. Like these aren't challenging times. These are just times for me personally. It's always been, especially again when you work in a startup world, as I tend to find myself.
It's probably very much part of your sort of schedule and your day to day, for sure. I think that we've seen too is one of the statistics that was shared on the chat, Matt, was also that executives say that the top benefits of digital transformation are improved operational efficiency, faster time to market, ability to meet customer expectations, And all these are really relevant. And Mark, I think this will be really fascinating to learn from you, because we know that certainly because of the pandemic, the company that you're currently with has really sort of risen very, very quickly to a lot of responsibility in helping so many, my kids included, so many people across the country do distance learning, right? So Mark, talk about the experience at your workplace. How are you all managing? How do you feel? What's changed, if anything, through this process of the pandemic?
Yeah, the past several months have been crazy. So I do marketing for Canvas and Structure. Some of you guys are familiar with Canvas. Your kids are probably using it in K-12 or in higher ed. But we have one of the big learning management systems. So it's being used incredibly well. We've seen some really impressive things that have happened with sales over the past little bit, hit new records. There have been challenges that come with that as well, increased expenses that come because of an increase in usage. But I think what's interesting about education is how incredibly educators and students have adapted to what is the new version of education. I mean, the hope is that in the very near future, we'll all be back together in classrooms with teachers and students. But I think the resiliency of what children, any kind of children or students of any kind, have shown and teachers have shown with being focused on this new digital execution of learning has been really astounding.
It has been astounding. I will just jump in on that, Mark, and say that, I didn't expect my kids to thrive so much on distance learning, and probably in partly thank you to the company that you're working with, because aside from power outages, I'll tell you, here in Southern California, we've been having more power outages than we'd like to have. It's been a really smooth process. In fact, I think my kids are going to have a hard time going back to regular school because they love it so much, I never thought I would say that, but they actually do dig it quite a bit. Let's actually tackle question 7 today. I think this is a good one, which is, this was a question that we shared today. With more and more companies working remote for the long term, what are the best tips to clearly display your vision on a virtual work setting? And I feel like this is right up your alley, Rachel. Let's talk about that. I mean, SAP, huge company. I'm guessing for you, for such a large technology-driven company, this was not that difficult a transition. Is it true, Rachel, or did you feel that differently?
I think it was a bit of a challenge. We do have a large remote workforce, but the bulk of our employees did go into offices around the world. But we were quick to adopt Teams and various other solutions. And I think I mentioned it in the chat. It's really key to know your team and your audience. I know in my team, I have people who are visual learners. So we do a lot of, obviously Zoom calls or another platform. So they like to see things. And then I have other members who will just send me an email. I'll read it. I'll take the action items and I'll do it. And that kind of translates to your greater audience as well, like what type of content they like to consume. So make sure that, as Mark said many times in the chat, listen to your audience and then react to what they're wanting to receive from you.
I love that. Yeah, listen to quite a bit. And I think it's a really great point. Many companies who are very traditional businesses, mine included, I never thought we would be working remotely, to be honest with you. I never thought my team would all be in different places and we will function as efficiently as we have. We're one industry that really, I think, up until the pandemic occurred, never thought would thrive on a virtual, I guess a virtual style, if you will. Matt, you work with a lot of startups that you mentioned, where your business is at, the clients that you work with currently, were they already ready to go? I mean, I remember reading one of your tweets saying, well, this is what we were prepared to do. This is sort of like your Olympics, Matt.
I agree.
So give you more worth to your value?
Yeah, I mean, it just validated really everything that I have recommended for customers over the last 25 years. In fact, I got a Rolodex of customers. I just call them up and say, I told you so, for the last 6-7 months. And I'm just teasing. I would never do that. But for the clients that I've been working with over the past year, there was zero disruption at all. I mean, we just really flipped to, yes, working from home, but we were working as a virtual team really with all the clients the whole time. Okay. So redundancy, when I say redundancy and resiliency, I was talking about IT terms like on-premise systems and the cloud backing each other up, working in a hybrid manner. And so it was really just shifting a dial, on-premise to remote cloud-based systems. Maybe we had to tack on a few things that we didn't have on the stack, but yeah, it was the moment to shine, I suppose. But again, my job as an IT person, as a CTO, is to look out for all the things that are going to kill your business and then make sure they don't happen. And that's pretty much all you do. It's kind of a state of paranoia.
Well, it's good to hear that, we have you planning in the IT. I mean, that sounds very, very wise. In fact, I want to say a quick hello, CrossX Fighter. So great to see you on YouTube. Lena, so great to see you on Periscope. Carlos, I see so many of you joining us. It's so great to have you here. One thing that we really need to talk about is sort of, the changes that businesses had to make or maybe had the opportunity to make during this time to focus on their digital strategy, to make sure that they still stayed relevant and they still stayed, in most cases, profitable. And, I know, Mark, you obviously have a lot of expertise, as well as Rachel, in influencer marketing. Mark, can you talk a little bit about some of the companies that you think have done a good job during this time, and maybe some things that really stood out for you that other businesses that are sort of learning from us today could think about adding? Or one of the things I loved that you talked about was listening more. Can you kind of delve into that?
Yeah, and I think that both Matt and Rachel and I would probably say similar things. From an influence perspective, I think people get stuck sometimes on how many followers do they have. My honest opinion is that I don't care. I don't care if you have 100 followers or 100 million followers. What I care about is, are you actually somebody who is influencing buying decisions? You look at people who have created almost cult-like followings, like Peloton, who's absolutely killing it. Our company, Canvas, LMS, has a pretty incredible community that is very focused on helping. And again, I don't care if you have 100 followers or 100,000. If you can help somehow in a buying decision or help in a service-related decision, we want you to be involved and we want you to be some kind of influencer for us. So listen to find those people and then actively work with whoever the real influencers are to be able to help whatever the brand is that you're trying to run.
So, Mark, that's really interesting because I just completed a satellite media tour last week with Chase credit cards. And one thing that through this process, I was learning that, influencers who did business a certain way, that certainly changed quite a bit, right? Because a lot of influencers or marketers were used to be able to travel, to be able to create experiences, you do all the things, and now having to pivot and in many ways sort of taking away some of those freedoms that we got used to having. Rachel, have you seen a shift in the influencer marketing strategies that work for you? Are there certain surprises that you didn't expect to work as well, but that actually works because we're in a pandemic and many of us are sheltering in place and there's more eyeball than ever on camera?
Absolutely. As I think everyone on this call knows, SAP was a very in-person centric company since our inception. That didn't work this year. So we flipped everything we could to virtual and identifying people who perhaps aren't great speaking on a stage, but have a thriving YouTube channel. It was just really eye-opening, like finding all of these new voices that, kind of to echo Mark, like they don't have perhaps the large scale footprint that we're used to targeting, but they have a highly engaged audience, and it's been really remarkable working with them. So we have modified our strategy to fit the new normal. And so far it's been a lot of fun and quite successful.
Well, Rachel, let me ask you an add-on to that then. I'm curious to hear this. Having gone through this pandemic, right? And obviously you work with a lot of influencers and obviously a huge brand as well. What are some tips that, there's going to be a point where we're post-pandemic. What are some tips or advice you might give to a business or an influencer to make sure that they're well-positioned in case something like this occurs again, where they're going to have to pivot their business quickly, where they're not going to be able to get on a plane, or they're not going to get in the car and just drive and go have lunch and do a meeting? Anything that you would suggest?
I would say keep creating content, because it's really disappointing when I go to names that I know and I go to their channels and they haven't updated anything since, January or February when they last did their speaking engagement. There's no reason why we can't continue to create content. We have all of these wonderful virtual tools at our fingertips, so many platforms to choose from. So just be active, make sure that all your bios have the key search terms that you want to be found for, and double down on content. We want to see you reacting to and being proactive as well to what's going on in the world and how your solutions, products, services, expertise can help.
I love that. So continue to create content. Mark, actually, want to add to that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think people should continue create content, or there's other things in addition that you think businesses should be ready for? I mean, your company was just perfectly positioned for this, for what happened. But now that you've seen what's worked and hasn't worked, what would you tell your company that you work with now, or maybe even you used to work with Adobe? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I am a super big fan of relevance. If you have expertise and a good reason to be creating content about a certain thing, fantastic, create it. I am also a bit of a fan of faking it till you make it. Yes, I just said that live. If you want to be really good at marketing, follow people who are really good at marketing. Start creating content that's based off of people and practices that are really good at marketing. I think you can only we found ourselves in a fortuitous situation with the pandemic, as awful as that is to say. It's horrible. I've actually had coronavirus, everyone. It's awful. It's very real too. But we were in a good place to be able to help our customers be the most effective as possible. So you can't time that. You can't plan for it. You've just got to be ready for if something like that does hit.
Well, Mark, we're so glad that you're okay now. So as your friend, I'm so glad to hear that. Let me actually jump to Matt. Matt, I think a lot of people here that are watching us are small business owners, right? And they don't have businesses the size of the Adobes and Canvas and SAPs. And they're wondering how they can maybe use some digital strategies for their own company. We talked about influencer marketing a little bit. What would you tell a company? Maybe they've got, maybe it's a solopreneur with one person running a company. You have any advice for how they could also market during this time?
Well, my advice is always, if you're not on Twitter, get on Twitter. It's untapped potential. If you're not there, you can do it from anywhere, and you can network with the best people on earth, in my opinion. It's been so effective for me. So employee advocacy programs that are either Twitter or LinkedIn or both based are simple, easy, very inexpensive, potentially free if you do it correctly, ways to get the word out from your employees and yourself. So if you're not doing those things, they cost almost nothing to do. So social in general, all small businesses should be out there, not selling, but just making people aware and really educating people on what their products and services are. And then while you're out there on social, make sure that you're helping as many other people as you can. To me, that's an extremely effective strategy, something kind of comes natural to me. I try to go out there on Twitter and help amplify as many people as I can. I've made a lot of friends by doing that. That's how I met Mark Boothe in the first place. And I call Twitter the scalable karma engine. You put into it and then it comes back to you. And don't ask me how it gets there. It's not a one-to-one thing. It's not a transactional relationship. But so I always recommend small businesses, get on Twitter and LinkedIn, start helping other people, and you will find that people will help you, and it costs nothing but a little bit of your time. And I've made great friends doing that. So
I love that. Thank you. That's really helpful, Matt. That's such a good reminder too. I think right now it does make sense to help people as much as we can, whether it be online or offline. And like you mentioned, it doesn't cost a lot of money, but it does take time. And I'm a big believer in Twitter karma as well, Matt. So thank you so much for reminding of this. Let's do a last question that we shared. It was A12, I think was a good one. Actually, question 12. Let me go up to it. Basically, if there's one thing we've learned this year is that to be ready for pivoting during time? I know we talked about this a little bit, but when you think about what we have to do to build a plan for that next chapter, what that next section is going to look like, right? A lot of the best businesses that we know and love were built during very challenging times, during the economy, during the stock market. And certainly right now, I think we could all agree for pretty much all of us, this has been the most challenging times of our lives. So for those of you who are watching, I'd love to hear your thoughts, in fact, on what things that you would change. What have you learned during this time? What things have completely been part of now your norm? One thing we talked a little bit about was the difference of going into an office and now working remotely. I, for one, never thought I would be working from home, and certainly working from home this much. And more so, I didn't expect to finally enjoy it. Mark, you talked about this. You said you haven't driven in a long time, have you?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while when I'm going around town, or if I get to take my wife on a date or something, but I don't use a car very much because I just sit in my office.
I was thinking, actually, it's so funny that you said that, because your tweet really hit home, because last night, in the middle of the night, when I was reading my news, and when I actually thought, maybe I'll sell my car, because I'm not really driving my car, and it's been sitting in the garage for almost a year, and it'll probably be sitting in the car for the next half year at least, right? And from a financial advisor standpoint, I'm like, I just don't like the waste. I feel like I need to any of you have thought about that, of changing or getting rid of anything in your life that you thought you needed, but you now realize you don't need because of the pandemic? Rachel, anything?
No, I mean, I have toyed with getting a new car, which seemed then it was foolish because my daughter was like, but we don't go anywhere anymore. So kind of the opposite, I guess. But yeah, it has been interesting. I know, much like Mark and probably everyone on this call, like I get my groceries delivered. It's really kind of like, what do I absolutely need to leave the house for? And that's kind of what we have to do right now. And especially in California, we're back down to being the stay-at-home order. So it's, do it for the greater good. So.
We do it for the greater good, for sure. Yeah, in California, you and I are sort of neighbors, and yeah, it's been pretty rough out here, for sure. Well, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I see many of you joining us. I think Jim is from Chicago joining us. He's so glad that he didn't buy a new car. Lena is joining us from the Bay Area, and she's agreeing that we should let the car go. Well, I'm probably, I know it's kind of sad, because I even named my car. But I think it might be time for her to go, because, after this is all done, I don't want to, at that point, I can revisit and maybe pick up a new car. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I'll let you guys know where we're going to go with that. But let me tell you, there's so much that's going on, so much value in here. Let's do this. I know there's a lot of you obviously would love to get on the radar of these three superstars here. What would be the best way for people to follow you? Matt, we want to start here. People want to get to know you more. Maybe they're even running a startup. Maybe they want to get some more insight from you. Where can they go to learn more about you?
Well, this is the biggest slam dunk question in the world. Twitter, of course. Clearly following me on Twitter is the best way. And I tell that to people. Yes, I'm joking a little bit, but there you go. Owen Ranger is my handle. My LinkedIn profile, there's a ton of retweets down there, but my LinkedIn profile is there in my bio. And I tell people who land on the LinkedIn profile cold that you better go over on Twitter to build a relationship before you pitch me. So yes, by far, you want to interact and work with me, just hop on Twitter, start retweeting or liking some of my tweets, and I guarantee we'll get a conversation going.
Sounds awesome. All right. Well, Rachel, I'm guessing you're going to answer the same, but I would still love to hear your answer. Rachel, obviously a lot of interest in SAP, a lot of interest in influencer marketing. And you really, I want to say, I love your tweets. You're really like the ninja in this space. What's your preferred medium for people to reach out and follow you?
Hands
Okay. So I
down,
think
you can contact anyone, anywhere, anytime. So yeah, definitely DM or shoot me a tweet and I will respond.
Great. And that's Rachel's profile for all of you to see. Okay, my friend, Mr. Mark Boothe, I know you're everywhere, and I gotta say, you're like literally one of my favorite humans, as well as everybody on this panel. But you are also one of the busiest people that I know. You're also one of the people that I can't reach as often. So tell me, what do you prefer? How do you prefer people reach out to you? If you win that $2 million lotto, how do we reach out to Mark Boothe?
Yeah, Twitter's not a bad place, at Mark Boothe. LinkedIn, I would love to chat. If you're just going to send me a pitch, I don't really want to chat that much. So get to know me. That is one of my biggest pet peeves, is accepting somebody's friend request or connection request on LinkedIn and then having a sales pitch come down my throat right after that. But I'd love to connect with you. Always interested in any other people focused on digital or marketing. And such a privilege, Winnie, to be with you, with Rachel, and with Matt. These three know I kind of chased and stalked all three of them for the longest time at Adobe. I think Rachel even told me at one point that I don't really see myself as an influencer. I think she said that, and I was like, well, you should look at what you're doing online then.
Yeah, look at it.
Just rock stars, total rock stars. So thank you.
Thank you.
And your tweets are so interesting. And all three of you are just such incredible human beings. And I gotta tell you, Matt didn't even bring out his funny, because Mr. Matt is hilarious. You just gotta spend a little bit more time with these three people, these incredible human beings. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the value that you share with our audience. We appreciate you so much. And I know I gotta be respectful of your time, because I'm sure you've got lists of people waiting in your DM right now. And of course, thank you so much for watching, supporting our program, and of course, sharing the show. Be well, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. But do me a favor, before it gets so super crazy, make sure you follow these three incredible human beings on Twitter. Give them a like, tell them you saw on the show, and tell them that, thank you for doing what you do. And then as an extra thing, don't forget to send me your questions and comments, because remember, Friday's coming up pretty soon, and that's when I answer your questions live on the show. And we're doing so many fun holiday into 2021 events. And tomorrow, I'm bringing you another superstar in the personal finance space to get you set up so that you're even making more money in 2021. All right, take care, be well, see you soon.